Today, Rob and Jordan are talking some Packers current events and catching up on some headlines a little bit from this offseason. We'll also spend a few minutes talking about what was seen or reported at OTAs. So let's jump in.
Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey. Yeah. Ain't no errors, baby. It's a new era. I wake up early, feeling rich like I'm Kesha.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sounds Gouda. My name is Jordan Olson, and my co-host and best friend here is Rob Relf. As always, thanks to any new and returning listeners. We're excited to be talking Packers football with you all, especially as we're in this slow part of the off-season. But right now, we still have new episodes every Wednesday and Saturday on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So subscribe, like, follow, any of that. Commenting really helps us out and it keeps us going. So let's check into some off-season headlines here, and we'll hit a few of the big topics because Rob and I haven't necessarily touched on a few of these or any of these in the last few weeks, not extensively, but let's talk Jaire Alexander. I think everybody's a little sick of talking about Jaire and will he be back, but I hear there's a restructured deal on the table. So Rob, is Ja back for good? What do you think?
I don't know. I would really like to get some, I'm sure along with the rest of the other Packers fans, would like to get some clarity on this situation. Obviously, I would love to have Jaire Alexander back. To me, he's one of the best cornerbacks when and if he is on the field. I think that's his biggest kind of red flag is he's injured. He's only played like half the games the last couple of years. So, but if you could actually get one full decent year out of him where he only misses a couple of games, provide some really good depth for us too for a cornerback specifically on the outside. So I'd really like that for our cornerback room as well, because we did not hit on that as good as I thought that maybe we should have within the draft. Went a completely different route, which is totally good, and I think that'll help us in other areas. So I don't know. I hope he does. I really do. I hope he does, and I hope he can stay healthy. How about that?
As we record this on June 1st, and this is officially the first day that we can make a cut. So, by the time this afternoon's reporting comes out, and by the time you listen to this, probably nearly a week after it's recorded, Rob and I's recording schedule, we kind of got to do some back-to-backs that, you'll probably have an answer as to what's going on with Ja. So I guess I'm going to make a prediction before news comes out. I say they get this restructured deal done, and he is a member of the Packers in 2025. I think it's the best thing for both parties. I think if Ja knows that he wants to earn one last big contract and have a chance to play with the Packers or somewhere else, that he's going to have to be a good soldier, so to say. He's going to have to try to prove that he can stay healthy. And, maybe these teams will just agree that they're both of their best interests for him to have a great season. And if he doesn't want to be a Packer at the end of the year, if he plays a lot of games, it can put him in a big position to seek a trade partner that he's interested in. So that's my take. Ja's back in 2025, and we'll see how much he plays. So we'll skip around here on our topics, our mailbags a little bit, but I think one of the other more interesting conversation points is what's going on with Elton Jenkins. He's kind of holding out of OTAs, so to say, but what do you think? Should the Packers extend Elton Jenkins, give him a new contract? Would this be smart business? What's your opinion on the Elton Jenkins saga at the moment?
So I understand where Jenkins is coming from. They're kicking him out of his, I guess, more premium position, not a tackle position, right? But left guard, where he has historically done very well for himself. I think he wants some more guaranteed money for sure. So I think that's probably what he's looking for, along with maybe a contract too as well. What will he be turning this year? 29, 30? Is he getting up there?
He's getting to that age. I think he might be 28 or 29.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that brings me to my other point too of the Packers not giving out, third contracts, excuse me, to to these players. The only one that I've seen them do it with, and like with Kenny Clark, right? So we all know what happened with Kenny Clark this year. Didn't play as well. We'll have to see how that ends up going this year. So, but that's just not in the Packers' way of giving another contract. Nor do I think it's a good business as well. But he does want some more guaranteed money. He's willing to switch positions. You don't have that much depth at center, so I really would think that it might behoove the Packers to probably give him some more guaranteed money, make him happy, or at least find a kind of meet in the middle type of situation. And then after this year, if he does play his heart out, he could be a free agent and could get, buku bucks on the market as well. So.
Yeah, he's under contract for this year and next year, and he's got about a $17 million cap hit for this season and 24 next year. And 24 million for a center. I mean, that's like you're the top center in this game money, right? So, like you said, I understand why he wants his money. He knows that the guard market has exploded. He's still at 17 million this year and 24 next year, would still be being paid like a top guard at this market rate. So I did confirm he's 29. He'll be 29 almost the entire season, all the way up until late December when his birthday is. So he really only turns 30 once we hit the playoffs, the end of the season. So, and then it'll be 30 going 31 into next season. And I just think with the moves the Packers have made in the draft, free agency, that's a position that they're not going to want to get old at. And I think they're going to tell Jenkins to show up and play. I think they'll say you got 2 years left on your deal. We'll see how you play at center this year, and if we should give you a boatload of more money to make that happen in the future. So hopefully this doesn't become a standstill. We'll see.
And what happens if he holds out?
Well, we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but they've been playing Jacob Monk extensively in OTAs in his absence, and they've been rotating in Sean Ryan. I guess if Elton Jenkins wants out, you're probably going to get a second or third round pick for him because he's had zero problems. He's been healthy. He can play at a high level. He clearly has versatility.
Yeah.
And then I guess, it opens up a competition between Monk and Sean Ryan. And then you drafted guys like John Williams and other guys to rotate in at guard. So it's not the depth position you wanted to operate out of, but they did create a path to navigate that this year if they needed to. So
yeah.
My take is there will be, other than maybe adding a little bit of guaranteed money, like you said, Rob, there won't be a major contract restructuring or extension to Jenkins. They're going to make him show up and play this year before they do anything substantial with his deal.
Yep. Yep. I mean, really, it's just give him a little bit more guaranteed money, and I think that should solve it, unless there's other sort of stuff going on, but never know.
The whole offensive line, we won't spend a lot of time on this competition piece, I think is interesting. There was a little bit of noise of like, is Zach Tom's job secure, which I thought was absolutely ludicrous. Of course, you take some of that reporting and you read between the lines, and of course some writers want to kind of spin, there's some narratives, right? But I think the Packers, Goody, Matt LaFleur, they want competition. They've inserted it almost at every position across this roster. And my personal opinion is that Zach Tom is going to get that extension before the season starts. So like, why? What is their motivation to just say, yep, Zach Tom is our starting right tackle. We're going to give him a 4-year extension. He doesn't have to think about that for the next 5 years. I mean, there's no motivation at that point in time for that player to continue to work hard other than, yeah, I want to be a Pro Bowler, so I'm going to work hard.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Same thing at our jobs. We're going to anoint you. Okay, I'm already brought into this. What else do I need to do to be able to prove it? Now, player to player is different, right? Like some people just strive and want that competition just to continuously get better. But are those players found ad nauseum or at will? Absolutely not. Your Michael Jordans, your Tom Brady's, your ones that demand excellence and want to be that and use any sort of little narrative and grain of thing to be able to prove themselves and be better. So, yeah, I understand where the Packers are coming from, and I absolutely love it. Continue to be able to challenge motivate, have you demonstrate that, even though you're hitting a certain threshold, a certain level, you can get even better every day. So I love what the Packers are doing from this standpoint, and Zach Tom is absolutely going to get paid, and he deserves that.
Yeah, they usually give those extensions like in July or August, right? So they're just going to make him work a little bit harder this offseason, make sure he's motivated properly to before they sign that, right? And it would not behoove them to, tip their hand in any way at this point in time. And, I think that, speaking of competition, right? And the other thing I'll just note with that is like, if you don't want to come in and compete, and there's been some other people that have made this argument too, like, I don't know, I don't have a lot of time for you. If you think that if you're that worried about your job, if you're somebody who's a starter, somebody in the Pro Bowl conversation, if you're afraid to compete against draft picks and other free agents, then you don't really have the right mindset to be a champion, in my opinion. Anyways, if you're that good, if you deserve that contract, if you deserve to be a Pro Bowler, then show up and put
Yep.
up.
1,000%. Amen to that.
Competition in the wide receiver room. The Packers did sign Sam Brown, a wide receiver, Sam Brown Jr., wide receiver from Miami. He did play at West Virginia and Houston as well. And I say Miami, I say the U, not the Dolphins. Although he did spend some time with the Dolphins earlier this month in their camp. He's a 6'2", 200-pound wide receiver. He was honorable mention all Big 12 and 2023 when he was with Houston. I don't think this is anything more than a back end of the, roster, likely practice squad addition, but somebody who, is clearly going to get a chance to be a practice squad guy and come in and compete. So he's a former teammate of Matthew Golden, and it sounds like he's pretty excited that he's on the roster with him playing together at Houston. We'll see what the future holds for Sam Brown Jr. Did you have anything to add? Did you learn anything more about him that you liked?
Yeah, I mean, some depth piece, bring in again, some competition, has some experience playing with Golden, so I'm sure Golden had some really good things to say about him as well. He did really good there in Houston specifically. I'm talking about, so University of Houston, excuse me. So yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. I don't take anything more into that. There's still a lot of training camp and all that sort of stuff to go through. So I'd be shocked if he made the roster. Maybe, possibly as a back end practice squad, but we'll see.
Yeah, and just while we're on the topic of wide receiver, clear up some other media-driven drama. But, Jayden Reed did come out and clear up some comments about some of the conversation around him reaching out to the team or his agent reaching out to the team to clarify his role. So it was nice to hear that a lot of people misinterpreted that. Those were his words. We hired a new agent, and Drew Rosenhaus is a pretty well known agent name out there, but I guess it's standard business for him to reach out to the teams, connect with the GM, clarify what things look like for his client, how the team views his position, his future, all of that. And obviously he said that was supposed to remain confidential. It's how his agent and a lot of others handle their business, and a lot of people really blew that out of proportion, which I think is all very understandable. So
Yeah, Reed's an important part of this offense. We know where Reed needs to improve. Obviously, he's working on himself to get a new contract, but obviously get a new agent. Agent wants to make sure stuff is going okay with the business or the organization. I mean, totally understand. It's people kind of blowing this out of proportion, but really, for Reed, and I'm sure he's thinking the same thing as well. He needs to show up and put out for this year, and then that literally takes care of everything else. So,
yeah, I think Reed will be next year's Zach Tom in the offseason. Like, hey, we all know that he's going to get an extension if he shows up and plays the way that he's capable of. If he recedes back like he did in the second half of last year, he's going to have to go into a contract year trying to earn that money. So got a couple minutes left here, but let's talk a little bit about what we're hearing from OTAs. Rob and I were scouring the internet, and there's a few clips out there, but there's not a lot for guys like Rob and I who don't have media credentials, who can't attend the practices to glean out. But we did pull out a few things for you. Alexander and Jenkins were both holding out or not at practice right now. I think both of them are trying to figure out their footing on this team. But then some other guys who didn't play or didn't practice for some of or most of the week: Javon Bullard, Quay Walker, Marshawn Lloyd, Kenny Clark, Josh Oliver, and Warren Brinson. So don't know the story there if they're all working through little injuries or other things, but just notable that they did not participate in at least a few days of the OTAs. Also, Savion Williams is in a red non-contact uniform, so he must have had some kind of injury or something, but he was out there running the routes and the drills, and I guess I don't really get that anyways. It's a non-contact practice, so I guess it's just extra precaution not to try to tackle or hit somebody, nick somebody up, but he's out there in a red uniform. But what were a couple of the other things that you heard of or saw clips on from OTAs that you thought were notable, Rob?
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, everyone's looking at the Jordan Love and Matthew Golden connection, which you saw a little bit of that. Basic routes. Matthew Golden looks like an NFL wide receiver. He can run routes. He can catch the ball. He looks smooth and fluid. So that's not much else to say besides that, because he's not going up against any competition. Starting offensive line from left tackle to right tackle: Walker, Banks, Monk, Ryan, and Tom. Monk, getting right there too. We just talked about the Elton Jenkins stuff, but getting some of those first team center reps. So I think that's actually pretty good for him and his confidence, depending on what happens with that situation. And just for backup piece too, for him to be a backup center. Never know what happens. Can happen for injuries in the season. And then Morgan, getting right guard and left tackle reps. And when he got the right guard reps, Ryan did kick in to center too as well. So that was something of note there. And then, with Ja being out, obviously, I think most people would have put this in there, but Nixon and Carrington Valentine on the outside as you're starting outside corners, Hobbs in the slot. And then Hobbs making some pretty good plays on the balls and breaking up some passes from Luke Musgrave. But again, too, if you watch any of Hobbs' tapes from him from the Raiders, he's been consistently doing that in the league since he got in the slot too. So I think those were some of the things that I've just picked up on from OTA so far.
Yeah, we won't talk about it now, but maybe in a future episode of this secondary is with the addition of Hobbs, and if Alexander's back, even without, so if Alexander's back, you'd assume that Alexander and Nixon are your outside starting guys with Carrington Valentine as your primary backup. But Javon Bullard's not playing right now, maybe seemingly due to injury or whatever, but you signed Hobbs, you have Javon Bullard. So what is Javon Bullard's role on this team? With Evan Williams, is Javon Bullard a former second round pick? Is he kind of buried on the depth chart now? I mean,
he might be.
There's going to be an injury, and we're going to need Bullard, and he's going to need to play. But entering the season healthy, it's just kind of an interesting conversation, right? And I'll just leave it at that right now. But Hobbs did make some plays on the ball that were noted in practice. He broke one up intended for Luke Musgrave. So it's good to see some early returns on that investment right now. A couple other notes or things that I saw, Reed, Dobbs, Wicks, Golden, and Nixon were the ones fielding punts. Not surprised to see Reed, Nixon, and Golden out there. I kind of expected Golden to be in that mix, but Dobbs and Wicks, they haven't spent a lot of time out there doing that in the past, but I think it goes to show you if one of them ends up being wide receiver 4 or 5 on this depth chart, they're going to need to contribute on teams to kind of make their way. So, and then just kind of another note with that, I didn't see any notes about McCole Hardman, not a darn thing. So Rob and I had our back and forth a couple weeks ago. I don't think it means anything yet, but, just haven't seen or heard anything about McCole Hardman. And then one other note kind of before I close this out, Jordan Love, there was some reports that he did look extremely sharp in the 2-minute drill and some of the things that he was doing. He went to Dobbs over and over and over again, I think 3 or 4 times in their 2-minute drill. So just to note, that chemistry remains. He likes and trusts Dobbs. We will see how that translates into the season and any success or starting reps or whatever, how that might play out. So yeah, let's close this one out. We'll have plenty of other time with some guests and some other things to be talking about. OTAs and off-season notes as we go along. So
Yeah, and if there's anything else that we might have missed, or another narrative or topic or storyline, whatever, shoot it below in the comments. We love engaging with you guys.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, thank you everyone for coming back and taking a listen to us. We do have new content every Wednesday and Saturday, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So please make sure to like, sub, and follow us on those platforms. We'd greatly appreciate it. But yeah, that's it for us for today. We hope that you have a good morning, a good afternoon, and a good night. Take care. Go Pack Go.
Wanted this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay.